Hello everyone and welcome back to another Fun Facts historical video. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and press that notification bell to be notified of any new content. Now let's begin. Today's theme is entertainment in medieval times. What people did to entertain themselves and how much different it was in comparison to nowadays. People in Middle Ages had it rough, but that didn't stop them from enjoying the fun part of life. They had different varieties of entertainment, the most common of which were board games. People played chess, backgammon, fox and geese, hazard, and many others. There was also a lot of gambling. However, chess was the most played of all the games after it got introduced to Europe from Persia in the 9th century. Chess was the forerunner to other board games such as checkers and Scrabble in our modern times. People back then loved the mentally challenging games that could be played for hours. Chess was played by mostly noble classes, and besides entertainment, it was also used as a training ground for the strategies, tactics, and thought processes that were employed in besieging castles during times of war. There are one king and queen, clergymen representing the bishop, knights or mounted warriors, and castles or rooks. The rest of the army is made up of conscripted peasants who are the pawns. These are the troops that are forced to the enemy first in battle. Games of chance were popular for individuals in all social classes when it comes to gambling. The most preferred types of gambling games were dice and cards. There is evidence of decks of cards surviving beyond the Middle Ages, but the exact Middle Ages games played have not been adequately discovered. It is probably safe to assume that some of the games were similar to more modern games. Back in the Middle Ages, childhood wasn't as defined as it is today, yet there is enough historical evidence that shows even back then, although with limited means, children satisfied their need to play with toys. It is apparent that the toys were relatively simple, produced either at home or within the village. There was not often an excess of materials expressly for making toys, so children had to be content with the spare and discarded pieces used to create their toys. Some popular toys of the time include hoops, dolls, hobby horses, ceramic animals and figures, rattles, marbles, and more. Late in the Middle Ages, around the early 16th century, images are found of children playing with hoops. They roll the hoops with a stick as part of a race. Children throughout history have played with dolls. Due to being made from fabrics and other elements that do not withstand centuries of aging, there are a few examples of the types of dolls produced. It can be presumed that peasant children would have rough and simple dolls, whereas wealthier children might have more refined and better dressed dolls. Images survive of young children, primarily boys, playing on hobby horses. Not all of the examples show horses' heads on the sticks and require more imagination on the part of the children to see the shape of a horse. Primarily produced of clay, marbles were a popular game played by children. While the rules of the game have barely changed since the Middle Ages, a medieval variation includes arches to shoot the marbles under. In addition to toys and games, sports and sporting events provided entertainment in the Middle Ages. Children played running games like tag and hide and seek. Popular among adults were tournaments and jousting. These dangerous sports involved the use of swords, daggers, and lances, and were seen as a practice of a military skill. Tournaments were extremely dangerous activities, and the competitors were viewed as a sort of celebrities. It was not uncommon for competitors to be severely wounded or even die during a tournament. Because of the skill and bravery required for jousting and other tournament events, these often drew large crowds and involved a sort of fair or feat. Archery competitions were also very common, and general skills with a bow and arrows were necessary for survival in the Middle Ages. Another common entertainment was hunting because it provided entertainment and also fulfilled the need for food. However, hunting was a sport of nobility. Several nobles may gather together for a hunt on the local baron's land and enjoy themselves. They would ride horses while their trained dogs would hunt down the prey. Even noble women liked to hunt. They would use trained birds of prey like hawks when hunting. Music was another common form of entertainment. Much of medieval music was influenced by the Catholic Church, and a good part of the music influence was pagan rituals. Aside from the instruments that were played in the church, courtly love was a major theme in medieval music celebration. Some of the main instruments of this era include harps, flutes, horns, and tubas. Performances known as troubadours and minstrels were popular in this era. With the help of puppets, biblical stories, folklore works, and legends were played out. The performances could be moralizing, tragic, but comedy scenes were in the greatest demand among the public. And the more indecent the content was, the more laughter and applause it aroused. The peasantry could not afford to pay professional musicians or actors, but plenty of people knew how to dance and sing, and enough people knew how to play instruments to have a jolly good time. Entertainment for the rich people centered around the spectacles of jousting and feasts or banquets. Banquets were well-known feasts among the rich, and these feasts lasted for most of the night until the early morning hours or sometimes even days. After feasting, entertainment might be provided by minstrels, troubadours, jesters, acrobats, fire-eaters, and conjurers. The dance was also important as a part of entertainment. Knights were expected not only to fight, but also to dance. Carnivals and masquerades were another very popular type of entertainment among nobles. They were held in most European cities during the week preceding Lent. At this time, the prime medieval society with a clear class hierarchy turned into a single seething human stream, where everyone dressed up in the most eccentric clothes and in order to remain unrecognizable with faces hidden under masks. People in costumes of animals, monks, jesters, men in women's clothes, and women in men's clothes roamed the streets of the city. Queen Elizabeth I is a well-known monarch who held a lot of cross-dressing parties. All this was accompanied by constant feasts with an abundance of food and spirits, games of cards and dice, performances of jugglers and acrobats. The holiday was the election of the donkey pope, who was supposed to ride around the main square and the churchyard, sitting on the donkey backward in a priest's costume. So, would you enjoy a good old medieval type of party? Let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe to the Fun Facts History channel so you won't miss any new videos coming out. Thank you for watching.